Hey guys, welcome on into the big, hang on, we're going to start over. Hey guys, welcome on into the Big Access Podcast. Today we're really lucky to have Scott Nelson, our regional sales manager from the Southeast, joining us in via web call. We're really excited to have him on today to talk all about that region, what's hot in that region, and talk about some other installations. So really excited to have you, Scott. Thanks for joining in, buddy. How are things going for you today?
Hey Brock, appreciate you having me on. It's another crazy day in the life of PDK. Just the region's been on fire. I think is a good way.
It
Good.
definitely has been, right?
Yeah, and I mean it's not just out of number standpoint, right? Just the sheer amount of options out there right now, and the amount of dealers looking for what is the best fit for them, just brings a lot of inquiries, right? It's a lot of phone calls around trying to understand what cloud-based access control actually is, and
Yeah.
really how they can use that in their portfolio to their end users and their customers.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, that's like you said, your region is on fire, right? The amount of growth that we're seeing there is just it's blowing up. And I guess when we're looking at that, what type of industries are you seeing access control really popular in right now in the South?
Yeah, so that's one thing when we talk about PDK specifically, we say access control, but it's all over the board because there's access control in every vertical we can really think of, right? Governments, municipalities, talking about SMB, all the way down to the installations for HOAs or homeowner associations, condominium homeowner or condominium associations. Which those really are some of the big ones. Where you get down in Florida, and
Yeah.
that's really where you talk about resorts and the COAs or the HOAs. So that's a big one that's kind of in that south or in the Florida area. You get into the cities, and that's really where we're talking about municipalities or kind of bigger footprint type jobs that are encompassing more buildings than just your standard office building.
Yeah.
That's with PDK, you have a lot of different verticals we can go into, and it's all specific to the dealer, right?
No, absolutely right. You see that with all of our dealers, right? We have each dealer really has a unique, tailored skill set towards a specific type of vertical, right? And so you do run into situations where somebody, like you're saying, focuses on HOAs and communities, where another person might focus more on education. Another one might focus more on your small to medium businesses. So that's good to hear that it's kind of well rounded in down in your territory. Do you kind of have one on mind that kind of sticks out as a recent install that you went out and helped out with that you wanted to chat about?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of them, right? I'm lucky enough that I've been in specifically in the Georgia territory for long enough. I've got a lot of dealers I've worked with over the years, and they feel comfortable bringing me into specific installs early on, or even when they're getting done with the install and trying to figure out last couple of things, they'll bring me in. So I've seen a lot of really cool ones. We've got a few that we can't really talk about yet. They'll be done here the next couple months and roll out, and it'll be something that really exciting for those in the hunting world because it has a little bit to do with that.
Hey,
We'll talk.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You'll love that one. But the one I want to talk about specifically is one that's up in Gainesville, Georgia. We got a really good dealer up here who was trying to figure out how to put together PDK and get it into an environment that is retail on the first floor, a school on the second floor, and then residential on the top floor, and how to
Oh,
really
that's an interesting case.
those together as one, right? Single points of entrance that allow every type of person into the building. But then how do you really refine that to only let certain people to certain floors during certain time, and utilizing a call box because that was really important to the residents upstairs. We need a call box, but we need that incorporated throughout. So working through the whole process, bringing in an intercom system, doing a little bit of troubleshooting to find the perfect match, and getting through that install. It was really exciting. The dealer was excited to see where this goes long term because of the people involved in that building. I think it's a really
Uh-huh.
good showcase for the Gainesville area because of the people that are involved in that building. But it's just really fun to see the dealer. While there were hiccups, right? There always is on a new install when you're trying to pull in pieces that haven't been used together before and figuring out what's the best way to do this successfully. Well, we found the successful way to do it, and now the dealer's very happy with how it turned out. Looks like all of the people involved, from retail to school to residential, are all going to be really happy. They love the way the app looks, and it's just a really good piece to show everything that PDK can do with so many different environments, including elevators.
That's really cool. Yeah, that is a great install because, like you were saying, that's one that kind of covers everything, right? It's not your normal standard, standard just 6-door access control system. This is a lot of different things that are now integrated together to really make everything a turnkey solution. That's one of the cool things with PDK, right? We feature an open API so that we can go ahead and have everything work together to create that turnkey solution. With it, you can also partition out systems. So like in this situation where you're going to have multiple different, business or partitions per se, you can break it out where everybody's going to be able to manage their own level of access control with it.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
and something really cool about that one was when we're talking about that school on the second floor, um, you know, the school's IT had to get involved at that point because
Yeah.
there's a amount of control that they have to have. And once they saw what PDK does, what kind of security we actually provide, and how easy it was to manage, it was really nice to see them kind of perk up and look at that, and maybe some potential for the rest of the school across North Georgia up here.
That's awesome. That is really cool. So, at what point did this partner of ours contact you, looking for some assistance to be able to put this whole project together?
It's like there's a number of times I've run into this where, again, I've talked to dealers in the past, or we started talking the PDK route, and maybe it just wasn't the right fit then, or they had something else that they've standardized on, and then I'm not quite sure they want to get into the cloud-based world yet. But then there's like one job or a couple questions from an end user that make them think like, well, I know PDK was cloud-based. The end user was looking for XYZ, or the end user may have been driving and heard of PDK before in the first place. And it's really that one, window of opportunity when the dealer calls and goes, hey, I think I got something that should be cloud-based. Can I talk through it? And it just goes from there.
Yeah. Right on. So you talk about that, sometimes it happens is it's a dealer or a partner looks at this as a situational access control system, right? And that's kind of the way that they get into cloud-based. Once they actually get in there, they actually understand it and start experiencing the benefits it provides, and then they start offering it more frequently. But what would you say to a partner that maybe is, looking to make that move to cloud-based access control, but hasn't done it yet because they kind of have that mentality of, well, I'll find a application for it and use it then?
Well, I think the number one obstacle that I typically run into and have over the last 2.5 years being here has been the conversation of, the end user just wants a one-time fee. They don't want to have
Mhm.
to pay something monthly or quarterly or every year. And that's the conversation I have most often with dealers. It's really, what does an every year cost look like with PDK
Yeah,
versus what an every year cost look like with an on-prem system, because there is an every year cost if you have an on-prem system, from
there
truck.
is, right?
Yeah, and you look at, and this is what I talk about with dealers quite a bit. What are those common truck rolls that they run into that is something that could be solved remotely using a cloud-based system, right? The basic troubleshooting pieces, understanding if maybe it's totally a network issue that's not even them as an access control dealers thing
Spot
to,
on.
right? So we look at the basic breakdown, and this is relative to the Southeast. Don't know how it is everywhere else, but a general price guideline is a dealer charges $90 for a truck roll, minimum 1 hour, and that's another 90. So they're $180 just to roll a truck.
Just to roll the truck, right? I mean, that's going to start adding up quick because now we're not even talking the labor involved with this, right?
Right, and the basics of it is, if you have an end user that hires someone new that doesn't know how to manage system, or they forget how to run a report, or they're trying to understand why their network is down. All three of those are things that a PDK dealer isn't rolling a truck for, right? I'm teaching
Yeah.
someone new over the phone how to run the system. I'm walking someone through how to run a report, and I'm never sending a truck there. Or I'm identifying, hey, your network is actually down. You might want to check and make sure your switch is plugged in, right? Some base like that.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think an end user would feel if it ended up just being something as simple as that, right? They had to pay this guy to come out there, $200 just to come out and say, hey, looks like your switch is unplugged. And that was the problem.
And that's the thing with an on-prem system, those truck rolls quickly add up to, five, seven, 500, 700, $1,000 of unexpected expenses that
Mm-hmm.
they're having to find that budget in February, in June, in September. They're having to find that money. PDK allows dealers to give them at least a general overview of this is what your annual cost is going to be, so they can budget for that. And that's something that end users help steer them a little bit away from that concern of the every year fee that they're going to run into, because at least now they know what that fee is for the most part.
Yeah. One of the other things that I've found has been, really helpful is helping to explain to these end users, that with a cloud-based system, it now becomes an operational expenditure. So they're actually able to write off the access control system on their taxes every year, right? You run into the situation where with an on-prem system, you can't do that, right? Because you paid for it once. That's a capital expenditure. With a cloud-based system, even though it does have, like you're saying, an annual or a monthly subscription to the partner, they're able to then write that off because it is an operational expense. And so that's one thing that I could teach every one of our installation partners out there. Learn the difference between CapEx and OpEx. That helps close more deals, in my opinion, than just about any fact about our access control system or a fact about a cloud-based system. That's a huge benefit in right there, right? You're talking about the long-term costs. That's a great way to be able to recoup all of the costs associated with a cloud-based system.
Yeah, and this is a kind of maybe an odd example, but I really compare it to surge protection, because a lot of our dealers do
Mm.
camp, right? They spend on a job, they could spend 30, 40, $50,000 or more on a camera, on the server, everything there. They always typically put surge on there, and they're putting surge on there not necessarily to protect the equipment. Yeah, they are trying to make sure they don't blow camera, but the biggest reason they're putting surge on there is to make sure that that database, that video, that VMS, they don't lose all of that video. Because if they
Yeah,
lose,
exactly.
the money is. So then that's what PDK really is, right? So we can hold all that information in the cloud, that database, the users groups, schedules, everything's always available. No matter what happens to that cloud node on site, you always are going to have your data. And that's such a safety and security thing to know you always have that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Well, Scott, that's about all the time that we've got for today. But thank you so much for jumping on. I'm really excited about what's going on in your territory. You're freaking killing it. You're a fantastic guy. You're a huge you're a huge asset for not just PDK but for the partners that we have down there in the Southeast. You keep killing it. But for those of you guys listening, thank you guys so much for jumping on. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to ProdataKey. Go to ProdataKey.com. You're going to find all of our contact information. We'll also have that down in the description of this as well. But be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Comment, leave your comments. Let us know what you think. And then if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to learn, go ahead and pop that down there as well. But thank you guys for joining in, and we'll see you next time on the Big Access Podcast.